I have been very critical of the protesters in Minneapolis, and I have caught some heat over it because how libertarian is that? You can't be on the side of ICE when it comes to enforcing these laws and the way they're doing the brutal tactics they're using. You're not a real libertarian. I will tell you that I am critical of these protesters in the same way that I was critical of the Black Lives Matter protesters, and I got called all kinds of Uncle Tom and nonsense for that. And let me just explain. How can a libertarian be upset with these protesters? Because you're not bringing anything to the table. You're not asking for any policy changes. You have no direction, no leadership. Nobody knows exactly what it is you want. Do we want open borders? Should we not enforce law? Should we not enforce our immigration policy? Is it just the tactics that they're using? Nobody knows. The majority of Americans support a strong border. The majority of Americans support the enforcement of our immigration laws. So I can't imagine that all of these protesters, first, represent a large cross-section of the American people, and second, even if they do, what is it you are asking for? And what is it you are accomplishing? A life has been lost, right? Here's the problem. Nobody has a problem with the way ICE enforces the law. Let me be perfectly clear on this. Nobody has a problem with the way ICE enforces the law because that's what we do in the United States. We stop people randomly, create reasons, demand papers, and then set them free. We enforce the law predominantly in this country by intercepting innocent American citizens in the hopes that we can find some reason to search them and create a crime that we can charge them with. That is the majority of what law enforcement in this country does. Where were the protests a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Nowhere. This is what who's mad when I get pulled over because I have a brake light out and the cop demands to see my papers? Where are my protests? What happens to me when I refuse that order from the police officer? Oh, guess what happens? I get drug out of my car and taken to jail. This is how we do law enforcement in the United States. So you don't have a problem with the way they're doing it. You've never protested it before until somebody has told you, hey, you should be mad about that and go do something about it. Not broadly, but in this very, very specific instance, in this very specific circumstance, you should go out and do this thing. And here's what you're doing. You're putting communities at risk. You're certainly making things worse for the people who are being taken into custody. A life has been lost. People are being hurt. Property is being destroyed and vandalized. And for what? ICE is just doing what law enforcement in this country does. And you didn't start protesting it until Orange Man Bad got into the White House. You don't care that people get pulled over. Every stop is a random stop. If you want to change law enforcement, then change law enforcement. Change the way in which we do law enforcement in this country. We don't do, hey, we're just going to randomly stop people and look for crime. Law enforcement is an investigative system in which a violent crime, a crime with a clearly identifiable victim, has been committed. Now we are going to launch an actual investigation, find the perpetrator, and hopefully arrest them. And that's where we're going to direct our law enforcement resources. And if you want law enforcement to function that way, then you have to look at all of the laws we have over society and go, well, what can we reasonably enforce with those restrictions placed on law enforcement? Well, we probably can't enforce, prostitution laws. We probably can't enforce drug laws. There's probably a lot of stuff we can't enforce anymore. And you want all of those things enforced. So you want law enforcement to function in this way. So just stop. If you believe in freedom and liberty, then you want to restrict all law enforcement to the standards that you're currently holding ICE to, which is you can't just stop somebody and ask them for their ID and ask them to give you papers. You can't do that. And I can see the arguments in the comment section already, but those are the facts. That's the truth of it. That's why what is happening in Minneapolis is what's happening. And that's why I don't really support these particular group of protesters supporting this particular instance of law enforcement doing things that you don't like law enforcement doing, because you don't really want it to change. You're just mad about this one particular thing that's happening.